Yes, there's been a lot of news and talk around the topic of responsible and ethical artificial intelligence. So, today I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to the topic, and it may help you to think about what this means for you. So, first, if we look at what does it mean to have responsible artificial intelligence, it's really quite a broad definition, and the scope covers ethical AI. It covers the development, deployment, design, procurement, decommissioning of any artificial intelligence system. Generally, what we're talking about is we must make sure that these systems are lawful, that they are secure, robust, and reliable. If we talk about responsible AI practices, generally we speak about having appropriate governance structures in place, making sure we've got appropriate risk management in place, and that there is sufficient stakeholder engagement when we design, develop, implement, and use these systems. Now, we've mentioned that ethical AI fits into this context. So if we zoom in into what ethical AI means in the context of responsible AI, it's really those moral principles and that we are looking at, such as fairness, justice, respect for human rights. And this is also where we find the topics around bias mitigation, sufficient transparency, privacy, accountability. So what is AI? Maybe an easy way to think of AI is machines that act in a human-like way or does things generally associated with people. Gather information from the outside, whether it's data, sensors, etc., and then they make some kind of decision or prediction, which could seem human. So there are a number of ways in which you can classify artificial intelligence systems. But for this conversation, I'm going to use the following model. So if I talk about AI, it's generally the field of study of artificial intelligence. We also find applied AI. And there are typically two types. In this space, there is the types of AI based on their capabilities and functionality. If we talk about capabilities, we can talk about narrow AI, general AI, and super AI. And most of the solutions systems out there today are narrow AI solutions. If we talk about functionality, that's where we talk about the reactive model, limited memory, self-awareness, and theory of mind. The next level is what we call machine learning. This is where we use algorithms to predict a specific outcome given a set of historical data. So you might have, for example, 10 columns of information about a client or a market, and you've got one or two columns that you would like to predict an outcome based on the information that you give it. So you train the model or the algorithm, give it the data with a set of good answers, and then the algorithm adjusts so that it can, if you give it the set of 10 or 20 columns, it can start predicting the outcomes of those missing columns, the answers. So that, in concept, is how machine learning works. The next one is deep learning, and this is where you would typically find the use of neural networks. It's sort of a simulation of the brain you can think of. There's some endpoints and connection points and connection between these nodes. And these can get very complex and very deep, so depending on the number of layers. So you're also trying to predict an outcome by the machine, trying to adjust the weights of these nodes in the network to come to an outcome. If it's wrong, it tries again. If it's wrong, it tries again. And so it improves predicting an outcome. And eventually, your model for a specific use case can be quite accurate. But you don't really know what's going inside this neural network. The weights differ, the machine adjusts these weights generally on its own. So it becomes a bit more black box. The next level is generative intelligence. This is where you would speak about ChatGPT, Copilot, Bard, or Gemini as it's called now. And this is even more black box. Now, in the case of the ChatGPTs, for example, the sort of main algorithm there is a large language model. So it's really good at interpreting, understanding natural language. You also get other types of generative AI. But their outcomes and how they achieve or predict an outcome is much less transparent, generally, to the user or somebody building a system on those. But in the context of responsible and ethical AI, what this really means is that in whichever space you are developing or using artificial intelligence solution, the responsible and ethical components need to apply. Robustness, must be lawful, bias mitigation, etc. So why is it important for us to make sure we use artificial intelligence responsibly? So we can look at it from a business angle. If our systems are, if we're using AI systems responsibly, we can ensure that our organization's reputation and trust stays intact. It allows us to comply to regulation. New regulations could be coming out with regards to AI. There are existing regulations with regards to privacy protection and anti-money laundering, etc. So if you're using an AI system responsibly, you'll make sure that it complies to regulation. Risk management as well. If we're using these systems responsibly, we can be much more effective at risk management. So those are some benefits to the business. There's also benefits to employees. You might think of a scenario where some kind of AI system could replace people in the workplace, but that would not necessarily be a responsible way to do that. A responsible way might be to see how we can use these systems to augment people's capabilities, or how we could reskill and redeploy people, which some of these systems might be able to do some of those jobs. So that would be using it more responsibly. Workplace fairness. Some AI systems could be used in recruitment, in performance management. So again, if you're not using it responsibly, we could face challenges in terms of workplace fairness. There's benefits to the client. Again, if we are using these systems responsibly, then we can ensure that we provide fair and unbiased services to our clients. We protect the data, and we can improve offerings to our clients. There's a lot of benefits in terms of efficiency and personalization that AI can bring, and clients can benefit from that. We must just make sure that we use it responsibly. For our advisors, there are benefits. Again, there's the client trust component. There could be customization opportunities, and it keeps us competitive. If we're not using these systems responsibly, you can see some of these benefits would turn into negatives. And there's benefits to the greater society if we're using this technology responsibly. So again, if you think of responsible artificial intelligence use, you can see how this translates into benefits to the various stakeholders. Now, let's say you wanted to start doing something with artificial intelligence. There's a lot of things to think of. There's the legal and the security aspects, etc. But in general, organizations have experts in place, security experts, legal people, business owners who understand what the legal landscape looks like in terms of products and solutions. There are processes and committees and decision bodies that make sure things are secure and that they are developed and used reliably. So there are generally a lot of capabilities existing in organizations. They might need to adapt, but that can make sure that a lot of the top piece, should be catered for. So I would in general recommend that you maybe start from the bottom when thinking about your AI system. And if you look at this scale, you can start with BI and analytics. Those are quite transparent. You know how the outcomes, it's very predictable because you've built it, so the outcomes are relatively predictable. But as you move down the scale, to deep learning and generative AI, you'll generally find there's less transparency, so less predictability in how the outcome gets produced. So it means your ethical risks increase. It also means that your human oversight currently needs to increase. Yes, there's systems that can support this, but human oversight, as you go down this model, on the ethical angle, that's where you should start. I would recommend, if you're taking a bottom-up approach, in terms of the effort that you need to think of for your AI solution. Now, many years ago, there was lots of effort, and still ongoing, to replace human inputs, for example, with automation, so that there's less capturing error, less human error. What we're actually finding now, if you're talking about deep learning and generative AI, that we probably need to increase human oversight again. So we're going to have to rely more on people to interpret the outcomes that these black box type AI solutions produce. So there's a big reliance on people to have oversight of what these systems produce. Okay, so that's just a general approach. Of course, everything is important, but this is quite new, I guess, this bottom piece, in terms of thinking about the ethical outcomes and going through the level of these models. So I would like to end off there today. In the next session, I'll delve a bit deeper into what bias mitigation means, what transparency or sufficient transparency means, etc. So I look forward to seeing you again. Cheers.